My son was taken away by the mafia, but the ransom they demanded wasn't money. They wanted me to divorce my husband, Ethan Shaw. As I listened to my son's heart-wrenching cries over the phone, I didn't hesitate. I signed the divorce papers without a second thought. On the day of the exchange, I rushed to pick up my son, my heart aching for him. But instead of running to me, he threw himself into another woman's arms. With a sweet smile, he said, "Finally, Auntie Grace, you can be my mommy now." Chapter 1. I thought I had misheard. Turning around, I saw my son darting into the arms of my husband's secretary, Grace Sullivan. His face lit up with pure joy. "Finally, Auntie Grace, you can be my mommy now." I froze, thinking the ordeal must have left my son confused or traumatized. Rushing forward, I grabbed his little shoulders. "Charlie, Mommy's here. Look at Mommy." I wanted to check him for injuries, but instead, I noticed he was dressed in brand new clothes, this season's Armani collection, no less. My son glared at me coldly and shoved my hands away. "Go away, you bad woman. You divorced Daddy, so you're not my mommy anymore." The words hit me like a blow, leaving me utterly speechless. Grace knelt down beside him, lightly tapping his cheek. "Charlie, you shouldn't say such mean things about your mommy, no matter how upset you are. Otherwise, she might stop wanting you." Her tone was gentle, but it only made Charlie more agitated. He clenched his little fists and began hitting me as hard as he could. "I don't care. I want Auntie Grace to be my mommy. Get rid of this ugly woman." I instinctively raised my hands to block him, but he pushed me with surprising force, and I stumbled backward, landing on the cold ground. "Someone, throw this ugly woman out." I was too shocked to react. His commanding tone, where had he learned that? Was unnervingly similar to Ethan's. Behind me, the bodyguard stood frozen, uncertain of what to do, until Ethan finally stepped forward. He lifted Charlie into his arms. "Charlie's had a long day. Let's take him home to rest." Not a word of explanation, not even a glance in my direction. He simply turned and walked away, carrying our son. I watched in stunned silence as Grace climbed into the car beside them, settling next to father and son like she belonged there. The three of them laughed and chatted, their smiles radiating warmth, an image of a perfect little family. Ignoring the pain radiating through my body, I stood there numb, as the truth finally hit me. This so-called abduction was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated scheme. Chapter 2. The day Charlie was taken, I was about to leave to pick him up from school. Then Grace called me. "Mr. Shaw said there's a last-minute parent-child activity at the kindergarten, so I went ahead and handled it." She paused, her tone syrupy and considerate. "Knowing you're probably busy, I didn't want to bother you." "Busy? What could I possibly be busy with? I was a housewife. My entire life revolved around my husband and child. Ever since Grace became Ethan's secretary, I'd felt like an outsider in my own family. She took over picking Charlie up from school, cooking dinner for the two of them, and even reading bedtime stories. "Mommy, I like Auntie Grace's voice better. Can she read me a story?" Charlie had pleaded time and time again. In the face of his persistent requests, I eventually stepped aside. Grace wasn't just Ethan's secretary, she was his first love. When she returned to the country, Ethan wasted no time reaching out to her. He told me that having Grace as his secretary was safer, more reliable. So she replaced me, both as his secretary and, it seemed, in every other role that mattered. I buried myself in being a full-time housewife, pouring all my energy into caring for Ethan and Charlie. Until the day Charlie was taken. Grace was the one who called me. Her voice trembled with sobs. "They took him," she cried. "They took Charlie." A sharp, pulsating pain formed at my temples. "How much do they want?" "I'll pay any amount, as long as they return Charlie safely." "Ma'am, they don't want money." "What?" They want you to divorce Mr. Shaw." Chapter 3. After coming home, I busied myself in the kitchen, hoping to prepare a special meal for my son. But the voices drifting in from the living room shattered my focus. Finally, the evil mommy is gone. Daddy, did I do a good job that day? Ethan poked Charlie's cheek affectionately, his voice filled with indulgence. Charlie, you were amazing. That crying scene was so convincing it broke Daddy's heart. But Charlie... Grace interjected sweetly. You shouldn't talk about your mom like that. She's still here at home. Why not? She's just a nanny who keeps bossing me and Daddy around. She's so annoying. Grace laughed, her voice light and teasing. Then how about I become your nanny? No way! Auntie Grace isn't a nanny. You're beautiful and gentle, the perfect mom. Listening to their laughter, warm and cheerful, I felt my heart plummet into a frozen abyss. It dawned on me, my husband and son had long since stopped loving me. Their affection now belonged to someone else, their young, beautiful secretary. Dinner's ready, I said, my voice steady as I removed my apron and carried the dishes to the table. Let me help you, ma'am. Grace offered eagerly, stepping into the kitchen. She picked up a pot of soup and began to carry it out. Suddenly, her foot slipped, and she fell backward. Ah! Her scream echoed as the porcelain pot crashed to the floor, soup splattering everywhere. I instinctively shielded her, stepping forward just as the boiling soup splashed onto me. The shards of the broken pot sliced into my leg. Grace! Are you hurt? Auntie Grace, did the soup burn you? I turned to see Ethan and Charlie rushing to her side, their faces full of concern. For me, there was nothing. Charlie's voice was sharp as he scolded me. You bad woman! Were you trying to hurt Auntie Grace? Ethan's eyes, filled with blame, met mine. Why did you fill the pot so full? We couldn't finish that much soup anyway. I bit my lip hard, swallowing my tears. For years, I had worked tirelessly for them, ensuring every detail of their lives was taken care of. But in the end, I felt like nothing more than a fool. They didn't appreciate me. Worse, they saw me as a burden. Was I just an obstacle in their lives? Ignoring the pain from my injured leg, they helped Grace to the living room. Ethan and Charlie flanked her, one on each side, showering her with care. Grace, your leg is burned. Let me get some ointment. Auntie Grace, why don't you stay the night and rest? The words hung in the air, and for a brief moment, everything fell silent. It felt as if even the room held its breath. Then Charlie quickly corrected himself, sticking out his tongue. Sorry, Auntie Grace. I was too excited and misspoke. From the corner of my eye, I saw Grace glance at me. Her lips curled into a smile of triumph. It was as if she were saying, "You've already lost." I didn't react. Instead, I bent down to clean up the mess on the floor. But inside, I had already made my decision. This house? I didn't want it anymore. Chapter 4. I set a reminder on my phone. In 5 days, I would find a job and a place to live. Then, I would leave. I didn't tell Ethan or Charlie. After all, it didn't seem like they needed to know. Within 3 days, I found a small apartment in a remote suburb. The air there was fresh, the surroundings peaceful. It was the perfect place to start over. On the 4th morning, I stared at a number in my phone's contacts, one I hadn't dialed in years. The sequence of digits felt both familiar and foreign. My fingers hovered over the screen as hesitation gnawed at me. Before marrying Ethan, I had been the marketing director of a cosmetics company. After marriage, I planned to balance both family and career, but Ethan insisted he could only trust me as his secretary. Out of love for him, I gave up my hard-earned career without hesitation. Now, looking back, I felt like such a fool. Nervously, I dialed the number. Before I could even introduce myself, my former boss recognized my voice. His reaction was a mix of surprise and delight. He eagerly suggested we meet. Flattered yet unsettled, I agreed. We set a time and place. Since I wouldn't be home for dinner, I sent Ethan a text, informing him that I had plans and that he and Charlie should sort out their own meals. After all, during my house hunting days, they had happily dined at Grace's place. To my surprise, Ethan called back immediately. "What plans? Where are you going tonight?" His tone was both anxious and irritable, like a child unwilling to share his toy. I wasn't about to tell him the truth, so I lied. "A friend of mine lost her job. She's feeling down and asked me to grab dinner with her." For a moment, I thought I heard him sigh in relief. "That's no big deal. If she can't find a job, I can arrange something for her," he said. Then, after a pause, he added, "You've been quiet these past few days. Everything okay?" Recently, he'd been asking that question a lot, his tone probing, almost tentative. It was so unlike him. When I didn't respond, he continued, as if trying to bridge the silence. "Grace's injury hasn't fully healed. I'll take care of her for another couple of days, but I'll be home for dinner tomorrow." I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Would he still be so accommodating when he came home tomorrow night to find me completely gone? Would he feel relieved or regretful? I figured it would be the former. Chapter 5. I arrived on time at a Cantonese restaurant. In one corner of the restaurant, a tall man stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the bustling street outside. For a moment, I was captivated, realizing that I hadn't looked at another man so attentively in years. After all, my world had revolved solely around my husband and son for a long time. The man turned and saw me, his face lighting up with a warm and familiar smile. Long ago, he had looked at me the same way, back when he helped me climb the ladder to become the marketing director. "Nina, we all missed you so much back then. To this day, we've been waiting for your return." After 5 years apart, seeing my former boss felt surreal, as if no time had passed. From what my old colleagues had told me, under his leadership, the company had grown exponentially and was preparing for an IPO by the end of the year. He had divorced last year and now lived alone with his child. Despite his single status, many young women had pursued him, but he had rejected them all. When he learned about my intention to return to the workforce, he seemed genuinely excited but also slightly concerned. "Nina, I'd be thrilled to have you back, but I must warn you, the market has changed dramatically, and you've been away for 5 years. You might need to start from scratch." Starting over didn't intimidate me. I was only 30, there was still so much I could achieve. I nodded decisively. "That's fine with me." After setting my start date, we parted ways at the street corner and headed home. The house was still dark when I got back. Neither Ethan nor Charlie had returned yet. I packed my luggage, feeling an unfamiliar but exhilarating sense of anticipation for what lay ahead. Near 10 o'clock, I hesitated but eventually decided to call Ethan. I asked if I should leave the lights on for them. As soon as the call connected, I heard Grace and Charlie laughing in the background. It felt deliberate, like they wanted me to hear. Ethan's tone sounded awkward. "Nina, Grace still needs to have her wound redressed. We'll stay out tonight. Don't wait up. Go to bed," he added. Right then, Grace's playful voice came through clearly. "Honey, should we use mango and shine muscat grapes for the cake?" That term of endearment, "honey," was unmistakably aimed at Ethan. Even though Ethan and I weren't officially divorced yet, she couldn't wait to stake her claim. How nauseating. Ethan seemed like he wanted to explain something, but when Grace called him again, he immediately responded. It reminded me of how he used to respond to me, without hesitation. But now, the person he was responding to wasn't me. "Sorry, Grace needs me. I'll talk to you later," he began. Before he could finish, I hung up. Without hesitation, I blocked both Ethan and Grace on my phone and social media. After all, by tomorrow, I'd be starting over. Chapter 6. The next morning, just as I was about to call the movers, my boss phoned. "Are you moving today? Let me come and help." I hadn't expected him to remember such a casual comment I'd made the night before. Half an hour later, he arrived at the house. 2 moving trucks and a group of strong workers accompanied him. "If you need anything, just ask. I know these past few years haven't been easy for you." As he spoke, A little girl in a red dress peeked out from behind him. She looked about the same age as Charlie. She stared at me curiously, then tugged at her father's pant leg. "Daddy, is this pretty lady going to be my new mommy?" My boss chuckled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, my daughter insisted on tagging along." Before he could finish, a childish shout rang out behind me. "Who are you? Why are you calling my mom your mom?" Startled, I turned around. Charlie stood there, his face flushed with anger. He charged forward and pushed the little girl to the ground. Thankfully, my boss acted quickly and caught his daughter before she fell completely, but she was still frightened and started crying. I pulled Charlie aside, my voice sharp. "What are you doing? Why would you bully her?" Charlie shook off my hand, his little face brimming with defiance. His words, however, were heartbreaking. "No one else is allowed to call you mom. I'm your only son." His fierce demeanor was a carbon copy of his father's. Right on cue, Ethan stormed into the yard. He approached angrily, flanked by several bodyguards. Within moments, the small yard was crowded, the air charged with tension. Two opposing factions had formed. A confrontation was inevitable. Chapter 7. Ethan yanked my hand, pulling me into his embrace. My boss, noticing my distress, tried to step forward to mediate. But Ethan immediately punched him in the face. "Who the hell are you? How dare you barge into my house and try to seduce my wife? Get him!" Ethan commanded, signaling his bodyguards to act. Seeing the bodyguards ready to make a move, I quickly stepped forward to shield my boss. "You've misunderstood," I said calmly. "This is my former boss. He's here to help me pack and move my things." Ethan's face, surprisingly, reflected a rare sense of being rattled. "Pack? We have plenty of servants and bodyguards. Why didn't you ask them for help? And why did you block me and Grace? What are you up to?" "I'm not up to anything," I said, trying to stay composed. "I'm just tired." "Tired?" Ethan scoffed. "Tired of what? You don't work, you don't take care of the child, you do whatever you want every day. What gives you the right to say you're tired? Or is this about the divorce? I told you, I've been busy. I'll deal with it in a few days." "Ethan," I interrupted him, trying to make myself clear. "I don't need to remarry." The room fell deathly quiet. So quiet that I could almost hear the seconds ticking by. I didn't look at Ethan or Charlie anymore. I turned and walked back to my room, directing the movers to continue with the packing. This time, Ethan seemed genuinely anxious. It was as if he had just lost something precious, now desperately trying to fix it. But he had never cared for it before. He grabbed my hand, his voice suddenly more fragile. "Nina, where are you going?" "I'm moving." "Moving? Why? Isn't this your home?" Charlie, tears streaming down his face, ran up to me, clutching at my leg. "Mommy, I was bad before. I made you angry, I'm sorry. Please don't go." I gently stroked Charlie's head, not answering, but simply said, "Auntie Grace will take good care of you." Then, I turned to Ethan. "I wish you and Grace happiness." With that, I left the house I had called home for 10 years, carrying only my luggage. After moving into my new place, my boss gave me a few days to settle in. Every evening after work, he would show up with various things. Sometimes dinner, sometimes health supplements, sometimes skincare products. His daughter always accompanied him. He would smile awkwardly and explain, "Sorry, my daughter insists on coming to see you." The little girl wasn't shy at all, and she would straightforwardly ask me, "Auntie Nina, will you marry my daddy?" I smiled and didn't answer directly. At this point, all I could focus on was doing my job well and adjusting to the pace of my new life. On the day I officially started working, I was surprised to see some former colleagues. They greeted me warmly, laughing as they gave me hugs. When I had worked with them, they were just regular staff members under me. Now, each of them was in charge of their own department, successful and powerful. Starting over always comes with its challenges. But thankfully, I had the freedom and energy to keep going. And I was hopeful about the future. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ethan and Charlie were living in a home that felt entirely different from before. Chapter 8. After I moved out, Grace wasted no time moving in. She had known Ethan for many years and understood his temperament. Even if she acted without consulting him first, as long as it didn't cause huge losses, he wouldn't get really angry. Besides, the snatching incident was something she and Ethan had planned together. Grace was the sister of someone from the underworld, and to force me to divorce, she had come up with this plan. She used her charms, softening Ethan up and making him agree. Grace moved out of her rented apartment and packed all her belongings into the room I had lived in. She smiled at the sight of the room, now fully hers, feeling quite pleased with herself. At that moment, Ethan and Charlie came back. Seeing the house cluttered with things, Ethan frowned. He hated it when things in the house were in disarray. Grace's shoes and clothes were scattered everywhere, displacing his things. Grace, unaware of his displeasure, tearfully threw herself into his arms. "Ethan, we can finally be together. What are you doing?" After a long silence, Ethan only said these words. "We agreed that when Nina leaves, I would move in. This is what we talked about, right? I was drunk that day. I don't remember what you said." Seeing that Ethan was as cold as ice, Grace gave up on him and turned to Charlie. "Little Charlie, how about Aunt Grace reading you bedtime stories from now on?" Charlie, hearing this, had been eager to see what it would be like but noticed his dad's solemn expression. His enthusiasm faded. Grace, lost in the joy of her new life, didn't notice the disheartened expressions on both of their faces and went to arrange her bedroom. She thought she was about to become a wealthy wife. But what she didn't realize was that being a wealthy wife was no easy task. From this moment on, Grace would not only have to play the role of secretary but also take care of everything at home. Ethan was busy with his work, handling a multitude of matters, and his secretary role was already overwhelming. On top of that, he still had to find time to pick up Charlie, communicate with his teachers at the kindergarten, and manage both of their daily needs. Within a week, Grace was exhausted, barely able to breathe. She no longer wanted to cook and started ordering takeout. The father and son, who had long been accustomed to the meals Nina prepared, began to feel unwell after several days of greasy, unhealthy takeout. One night, Charlie came down with food poisoning, vomiting, and having diarrhea. Ethan was at an important meeting out of town. Grace had a classmate reunion and wasn't home. Charlie, weak and frail, called his dad. "Dad, my stomach hurts so much. I keep having diarrhea. It hurts so bad," sobbing. Ethan, hearing this, panicked. He quickly called Grace. He dialed her 4 or 5 times before she finally picked up, sounding impatient. "Charlie isn't feeling well. He's been having diarrhea. What did you feed him tonight?" Grace, caught off guard by Ethan's questions, panicked. "I just ordered some grilled cold noodles. He said he wanted to eat them." "He wanted to eat, so you gave it to him? Didn't I tell you to cook at home and stop ordering takeout? Didn't I tell you not to order takeout? Are you even listening to me?" Grace, close to tears, couldn't even enjoy her reunion anymore. She quickly hung up and tried to catch a cab, but it was rush hour and none of the drivers accepted her fare. Ethan's calls kept coming in. "Why aren't you back yet? I told you to get a driver's license, but you never listened. Now look at this. Ethan, if something happens to Charlie, I will never forgive you." Hearing Ethan's angry yell, Grace also lost her composure. She shouted back. "Ethan, we're not even married yet, and you're already barking orders at me. I came here to enjoy life, not to be your maid. Your son is your responsibility, handle it yourself." With that, Grace hung up in anger. Ethan, feeling the pressure, continued calling her, but Grace had turned her phone off. Sweating and panicking, Ethan searched for Nina's number. He dialed it using a new number. As he waited, many thoughts ran through his mind. He regretted it, regretted divorcing Nina. He regretted treating Nina so poorly. They had once had such good times. When he was poor, and they could barely afford 3 meals a day, Nina still found ways to add something extra to his plate. Sometimes it was a chicken leg, sometimes it was a grilled sausage. She had always outshone him, always been smarter than him. But she always lowered herself to please him, to make him happy. She fought for every opportunity for him, just so he could stand tall in this ruthless world. He realized that everything he had now, everything he had achieved, was thanks to Nina. Such a wonderful woman, and he had thrown her away. How despicable he had been. As he thought about all this, the phone finally picked up. A warm, gentle voice answered on the other end. And in that moment, Ethan realized that her voice had never sounded so captivating. Chapter 9. When I received the call from the unfamiliar number, I was at a bar. Through my hard work, I had become the top salesperson in my department within a month, setting a new team record. My boss was thrilled and took everyone out to celebrate. Since returning to work, I felt younger and more open-minded, encountering many new experiences. I even started joking with others. But when I answered that call, I felt my newfound freedom being yanked away. Hello? Nina? It's Ethan. Please don't hang up, Nina. I have an urgent favor to ask. Please help me. Charlie might have acute gastroenteritis. He's alone at home, vomiting and having diarrhea. I'm at an out-of-town meeting, I can't get back. Can you take him to the hospital? Ethan's voice was frantic, lacking his usual sharpness, filled with pleading. Hearing this, I felt a mix of anxiety and unease. What mother wouldn't worry about her child? But I still said, "Isn't Grace his mother now? She can take him to the hospital." "Nina, she's not Charlie's mother. She never will be. You're the only one I want to marry." In the end, I explained the situation to my boss and left early. My boss, concerned for my safety, insisted on driving me. When we arrived at Ethan's house, the familiar surroundings stirred something in me. My boss noticed and patted my shoulder, urging me to hurry. I rushed to ring the doorbell. When the door opened, Charlie saw me and burst into tears. Mommy, I feel so sick, Mommy. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Mommy, I missed you so much." At the hospital, the doctor confirmed it was acute gastroenteritis. As Charlie received 4 fluids, he fell asleep from exhaustion. I stayed by his side. I told my boss he could leave, but he insisted on staying. "I can't leave you alone." Something long dormant in my heart stirred. But it quickly faded away. My boss's feelings were clear to me. But I wasn't ready for a new relationship. As I was about to fall asleep, I felt a warm blanket over me. I opened my eyes slightly and saw my boss covering me with his coat. "Sleep. I'll keep watch." Seeing his tired yet determined face, I felt a strange emotion. But it was quickly extinguished by the sound of approaching footsteps. Nina. Ethan, always so commanding, rushed over, crossing the room in a few strides. Seeing my boss, his face darkened. "Why are you here again? What right do you have to be near my wife and son?" Chapter 10. Seeing Ethan about to lose his temper, I intervened. "My boss drove me to pick up Charlie and brought us to the hospital. Instead of thanking him, you're yelling at him?" Hearing my explanation, Ethan's expression softened. "Sorry, and thank you. You're welcome." My boss replied calmly. He then excused himself to buy some things, leaving us alone. To avoid disturbing Charlie, I led Ethan out of the room. Ethan kept staring at me, his face showing a mix of emotions. He seemed to have a lot to say. But I didn't want to hear it. "Nina, I was wrong. I apologize. I shouldn't have conspired with Charlie and Grace to deceive you. I was momentarily blinded. Grace and I were together once, but I have no feelings for her now. Nina, please come back. I love you and want to remarry. Charlie and I need you. This family needs you." Listening to Ethan's heartfelt confession, I started to laugh. Ethan thought I was finally forgiving him and reached out to hug me. I stepped aside. In all these years of marriage, did you ever consider my feelings? I wanted to pursue my career, but you said your work was more important and needed me as your secretary. When Charlie started school, you said he needed his mother more, so I quit to be a full-time parent. Ethan, you don't love me. You just need a nanny. Ethan's face showed a look of utter despair. I had never seen him like this, not even in our hardest times. Losing a nanny seemed to hit him harder. Charlie's medical bills are paid. He can go home after the 4. My boss is waiting outside. I need to go. Nina. He called after me, and I paused. Do you have feelings for your boss? I sighed deeply and continued walking. It's none of your business. Chapter 11. Another month passed, and I was promoted to team leader. Relying on myself felt amazing. With no safety net, I had to push harder and strive more. My boss called me to his office and handed me a box. I noticed the curtains were drawn. Seeing the elegant velvet box, I felt nervous and tried to return it. If there's nothing else, I'll get back to work. My boss smiled. His smile was warm and devoid of any personal feelings. I relaxed a bit. Open it, he said. Carefully, I opened the box and found a medal. It was a reward for my promotion to team leader. I thanked him and returned to work. But then I received a call from Charlie. Now, I visited Charlie every week. Sometimes we had dinner together, sometimes we went to the park. Since his bout with gastroenteritis, Grace and Ethan had fallen out. Ethan was angry that she hadn't fulfilled her role as a mother. Grace didn't want to be a nanny for someone else's child. So, she quickly moved out. She revealed her true colors to Charlie. If it weren't for your dad, I wouldn't bother with you. Grace's kindness had been an act. Her gentleness, patience, and warmth were all a facade. True love doesn't require manipulation. I had given Ethan my all, never resorting to tricks. When a relationship needs manipulation to survive, it won't last long. Even if it does, it won't be genuine. On the phone, I patiently asked Charlie what was wrong. He said he saw a child eating ice cream at the supermarket and asked if I could take him to get some this weekend. Perhaps because he had experienced loss, Charlie now cherished me more. He was even cautious. It broke my heart, but one day he would understand. I smiled and told him. Sure, we'll go this weekend.